Hello, Algebra 1 class. This is Miss Odell again, and we are ready to move on in Chapter 2. We're going to be talking about equations, all right? All right, so you want to be in your algebra book on page 46, and the first section is titled 2.1, Additional Property of Equality. Now, what is an equation? Well, as it says in your book, and I want to remind you that you need to be taking notes. These notes will go in your binder for section 2.1, and I will be checking your binders from chapter 1 when we come back next week for a grade. All right, so an equation is a mathematical sentence stating that, and this is stating that two expressions are equal. Okay, what that means is it's saying that if you have x minus 2 equals 8, this becomes an equation when you have this sign right here, when you have an equal sign. If you remember, if I told you that if you had x minus 2, that is simply an expression because it doesn't have an equal sign, okay? All right, so let's talk about how to solve equations. All right, you're going to move over on page 47. Let's look at this addition property of equality. Okay, so what it says is, given A, B, and C, where A equals B and C, then A plus C equals B plus C. Okay? I know that probably is a little confusing, but, imagine if you have 5 equals 5. That's a true statement, right? But you could also have 5 plus 3 equals 3 plus 5. And you get the same answer, correct? Yes. So, if any quantity is added to or subtracted from both sides of an equation, then the equation remains true. Okay, so now let's get to the heart of it and let's talk this, okay? So if you have x plus 2 equals 10. Now, your goal when you are solving equations is to isolate the variable. Because when you do that, that is going to tell you what the value of the variable is. X is our variable in this case. So here are your steps. Since you have x plus 2 equals 10, you're going to do your opposite or your inverse operation. What's the inverse operation of addition? Subtraction. The inverse operation of subtraction, addition. The inverse operation of multiplication, division. Inverse operation of division, multiplication. All right, so in this case, the inverse operation here would be subtraction. So x plus 2 equals 10. So what that's telling me is that you are going to do the opposite here. So you're going to subtract 2, and what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Okay? So 2 minus 2 is 0. So that isolates our x equals 10 minus 2 is 8. Now, I'm going to substitute this back in here to my equation to check my answer. And if I say 8 plus 2 equals 10, I am correct. Right? Simple as that. Let's say we have x minus 10 equals 2. What's your inverse operation of subtraction? Addition. So you're going to, there's a couple different ways you can do this. You can do it horizontally, or you can write it vertically, and I'll show you that way now. So if I want to do the inverse operation, so I'm going to add 10. This cancels, and you have x equals 2 plus 10 equals 12. You can substitute that back in, and you see that 12 minus 10 equals 2. Ideally, when you're starting and you have x minus 10 equals 2, you want to x minus 10, do your inverse plus 10 equals 2. What you do to one side, you got to also do to the other. Negative 10 plus 10 is 0, so x equals 2 plus 10 is 12. Okay, let's do some more. All right, so let's look at this. X plus 2 equals 6. Now, what's the opposite of addition? That would be subtraction. So if you have x plus 1/2, you're going to do the opposite of plus 1/2 to minus 1/2 equals 6 minus 1/2. Now, notice that 1/2 minus 1/2 cancels, right? That's the goal, is you're canceling out from one side and moving it to the other. So x equals, I'm going to put that 6 over 1 minus 1/2. I have to have a common denominator. Okay, so then I am going to have 12 minus 1 is 11 over 2. You are going to leave, listen closely, your answer in an improper form. That may seem a little confusing because you're always asked to change those back in your other math classes previously, but you're going to leave your answer in an improper form. Let's try another one. Okay, let's say we have 15 plus n equals 19. In this case, we are going to do the inverse of a positive 15, which is what? Minus 15. So minus 15 plus 15 plus n equals 19 minus 15. Notice what I did to this side, I had to do to this side. Negative 15 plus 15 cancels. That gives me n equals 19 minus 15 is 4. Let's go back to this original equation. 15 plus n equals 19. What did we decide n was? 4. So if we replace that for n, we have 15 plus 4, and that does equal 19. Okay, so in this case, we have decimals, which is going to work the same exact way, and you're just going to be solving it with decimals. So c plus, let me just go back here and start over. So the opposite of addition is subtraction. So I'm going to subtract 0.09 from this side and subtract 0.09 from this side. That cancels. So c equals, so if you have 0.12 and you're going to subtract 0.09, you could set it up like this, and you know you're going to subtract, and so you're going to get 0.0, because you're going to borrow here, 3. So your answer is going to be 0.03, just like normal arithmetic, but using it in an equation with decimals. All right, so this is a fraction. Now, in this case, they already have your fraction, especially this one, written in an improper fraction. But if this had been written as if this had been written as 1 and 5/14, then you're going to change that to an improper fraction before you begin to solve. Okay, which I don't think I did that right. Be 3 over that. Yeah. So anyway, just ignore that, but that's what you do. So I'm going to do the opposite. Minus 5/7. K equals, That cancels. 17 over 14 minus the opposite here, 5 over 7. I got to have a common denominator, okay? It's the thing with fractions. So 7 is a factor of 14, so I know that I can multiply that by 2 to get 14. Of course, what I do to one part of the fraction, I have to do to the other, which gives you 10 over 14. K equals 17 minus 10 is 7 over 14. And you can either leave it with that, or you can change it to 1/2. It's always ideal in this case when you are reduce your fraction to lowest terms. However, always leave it in an improper form if your answer ends in an improper form. The next lesson, I'm going to go ahead and touch base on that just a little. You're not going to practice on that, but this is with your multiplication. So if you have 3x equals 12. Now remember, 3x is the same thing as saying 3 times x, right? What's the opposite of multiplication? Division. So if I divide both sides by 3, x equals 12 divided by 3 is 4. Then you can take this original equation, and if I have 3, I'm saying the value of x is 4 equals 12. So 3 times 4 is 12 equals 12. Okay? All right, we're going to do these last 4 together. And what I want you to do is I want you to work them out the best that you can. And then I want you to look at them, write them down, work them out, pause the screen, work them out, and then come back and start it back up. And then I'm going to work these problems out, and that way you can see if you got them right and what you did wrong. Okay? So go ahead and pause. All right. So I'm going to do the inverse operation here. The inverse of addition is subtraction. So I'm going to subtract 5, subtract 5. This cancels. X equals 15 minus 5 is 10. Okay? Check your answer. Inverse operation of subtraction is addition. So I'm going to add 6, add 6. X equals, that cancels, 4 plus 6 is 10. You can check your work again by saying 10 minus 6 is 4. Okay? In this case, the numbers first and then the variable. You could still solve it the same because what's in front of this 5? An invisible positive sign. What's the opposite of positive? Negative. So you're going to subtract 5. That's going to cancel. X equals 2 because 7 minus 5 is 2. Same situation here, okay? But in this case, the opposite of a plus 9 is a minus 9. Now watch this, I'm going to show you. Then you're going to have negative x equals 7 plus a negative 9 would be a negative 2. Now, when I showed you division earlier, this is what I'm referring to. You always have an invisible 1, right? If there's no coefficient in front of it, you have an invisible 1. So I'm going to divide both sides because that's multiplication by negative 1. And so x is going to equal a positive 2 because when you divide two negatives, you get a positive. Okay, guys, that's it for now. You have an assignment. Please complete that assignment. Let me know if you have any questions.